Hey, everybody. Welcome to the REBT Advocates with Dr. Michael R. Adelstein and me, Tommy Bateman. You can find our website. You can find Michael at 3minutetherapy.com and me at therationalcounselor.com. Please head on over there. You can find our email and contact info. We'd love to chat with you. Well, on this episode today, we're going to talk about two topics pretty briefly. We're going to talk about the difference between rational and rationalizing. Very different. Might even bring Aesop into it. And then later talk about the A, how to find that A. I think Prince, I'm forgetting how your second part of your name, but a YouTube viewer, he asked, hey, how do I figure out what I'm upset about? What's even going on? Now that could be the B or the A, but we're going to start with the A. We're going to go to the B and the C and the D and all in the end of it, and walk through everybody in separate episodes. So let's start with the rational part though, Michael. So rational versus rationalizing, what's that all about? Why do we need even care about that difference?
Okay, that's a good question that clients ask me, especially when I introduce REBT strategy called refuting your excuses, or what I call in my book, 3-Minute Therapy, 3-minute refutations. And refuting your excuses has two elements. The excuses, or the rationalizations, and the refutations. We'll just focus on the rationalizations. And a rationalization is a statement you make to yourself to make whatever you're doing that goes against your goals seem reasonable. For example, if you have an addiction to alcohol and you tell yourself, I'll just have one drink and then I'll stop. Well, if you just had one drink and you stopped, it would be rational. But it's really rationalizing. It's irrational. We could call it irrationalizing because it goes against your goals. So the question is, what's the difference between the must, the irrational beliefs that Tommy and I talk about a lot, and the rationalizations? And the answer can be thought of like a tree with a root and branches. And the root are the musts, the shoulds. The musts give rise to rationalizations. And a good example of this is Aesop's fable. Aesop wrote many fables to teach principles of living a good life. And one was called The Fox and the Grapes. And the fox was hungry and was jumping for grapes on the vine and couldn't reach the grapes, and then concluded, I didn't want those grapes anyway, they were sour. That's a rationalization. Probably what was much deeper was the fox telling himself, I have to reach those grapes, and if I don't, this proves I'm a rotten fox. He doesn't want to face that, so he comes up with the rationalization, I didn't want those grapes anyway, they were just sour. So the rationalizations of the branches on the tree and the root are the demands, the absolutes, the musts and the shoulds. So if you want to get rid of both, strike at the root, strike at the irrational beliefs and question those, but also it's useful to use the 3-minute refutations and strike at the rationalizations and show yourself many reasons why the rationalizations are actually irrational and unreasonable.
Excellent. So it's kind of like saying, here's another example. You didn't get hired for the job you applied for, and so you go, oh, that job would have sucked anyway, so I'm glad I didn't get it.
Exactly. When the must is, what's the underlying must there, Tommy?
Well, I must get this job and get a higher salary, or else I'm a failure to my family.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And a failure as a person.
That's right. That's right. So any questions about that, guys, just put them in the comments below, and we're going to move on. Thank you, Michael, for explaining that and using a fantastic analogy. I know how much we like analogies in our world here. We have plenty of episodes, I think 4 of them on anecdotes and analogies that are pretty useful. So we're going to move on to the next topic, which is identifying the A. So let's say you have an emotional upset. You know there's just something not right, something unsettling. Maybe you're feeling stress and anxiety, and you're like, this is for no reason. But I understand REBT. I understand the roadmap, ABCs. And I know the C right now, which is I'm anxious. What's the A? What's the A? I have nothing to be stressed about. What's going on? Michael, what's your response to this question?
Yeah. Well, I get this question from clients frequently. And the first thing to look for when you don't know you're you're feeling anxious or depressed, is a secondary disturbance. Because a secondary disturbance, as we've discussed, is upset about being upset, a must about a must. For example, being anxious about being anxious, or feeling depressed about being depressed, or feeling guilty about having been angry. So a secondary disturbance is when you have a disturbed emotion about a disturbed emotion. And that tends to be more abstract than being anxious about getting trapped in an elevator, or getting rejected, or doing poorly on exam. So often it's a secondary disturbance. So ask yourself, is there a secondary disturbance? Am I anxious? Am I depressed about an emotion I have or that I may have? So that's the first point. Did you have another additional idea there, Tommy?
Just to frame it, I mean, I like to always categorize things into a major must, which is this one's kind of a major must number 3, I would say. I must not experience anxiety. That will be awful. I can't stand it. If I experience anxiety, yeah, I won't be able to stand up to it. And of course, what's the emotional or behavioral consequence of that must, which is more anxiety, a secondary anxiety.
Yes, and it could also be must number 1,
Mhm.
which is I must not be anxious. Usually it's with depression.
Yeah.
I must not have been depressed all my life. This shows I'm an emotional basket case and I'll never get better. What a rotten person I am.
Yeah, I'm not appreciative of life. I have everything going well for me. What a piece of crap I am for being depressed about this.
Exactly right. That's another option. Then another thing you could do, if it's not a secondary disturbance and that doesn't identify it, is you can just either talk to someone else or write out yourself just what's going on right now. And with clients, I just say, well, what's been happening? And then pretty soon they tell me some things that have been happening that they are anxious about or depressed about. So if you write out, well, what's been happening lately, what situations are on your mind or what is on your mind, and you write it out, and then you see where the must goes. So for example, well, feeling I have a lot of things to do for work, and I'm feeling kind of overwhelmed. I don't know when I'm going to get it done. So is that the must? I must get it all done right now. So with the sentences you write out, see where you can stick in the must or the should or the must not or should not, or the worthlessness. I'm worthless if I don't get it done right now. So that's another way, sort of a free association kind of way of getting to to the act to the activating. Actually, I was talking about how to get the irrational belief. But if you write out the situations in your life right now, then you could say, that's it, or the other sentence describes it.
Yeah, that was going to be my go-to. My number 1 is, let's be on the secondary disturbances, journaling, journaling your day. Just kind of, a lot of people, they have trouble sleeping because they're perseverating over whatever's going on, and maybe their thoughts are going all over the place. And I say, well, just write it down, put it here and onto paper, and then relook at it and see what's actually what you're actually thinking about, and seeing if that's actually what you're disturbed about to begin with.
Okay, very good. Well, I hope that's helpful. If you have further questions about finding the A, let us know in the comments section. And also, we plan to do a podcast on finding the B, finding the C, D, E, and F, and then maybe for no extra charge, finding the G. Well, thanks for watching, and please give us a like, and please continue to watch our podcasts and subscribe to stay on the rational side of life.